welcome back to my channel EduVibe. Today we will start with the next topic of the unit quadratic equations. So we can see in the previous videos that how can we solve the quadratic equations by computing the square, by factorization, and by quadratic formula. Today we will focus on only the graphically method. Make the graphs like this. You can see over there. The graphs looking like that, where we can see the U shape, which we call the parabola. This is called the parabola. We will see more about this graph today. So let's start with what is the quadratic function. So when we're talking about the graphs, in graphs, particularly when we're talking about the quadratic equations, in quadratic equations, when we move on to the graphs, we convert the name from quadratic equations to the quadratic function. So the quadratic function is the polynomial of degree 2. You know that if we make the equation for this like x squared, so is 2 means the degree of 2. Next, as I told you over there, that this is the parabola. So the parabola is the graph of quadratic functions. Functions are written in that way. And what is the other, if we have like x squared plus x plus 2 like that, for example. So we write it like that if we write it the quadratic function, or we write it like y is equal to this. We have two ways to write this one and this one. So nothing in the graphical, we have the axis of symmetry. This is a term we use oftenly, like this is a characteristics for the graph. We have so many characteristics we will discuss later on, but the axis of symmetry is that line that goes through the vertex and divides the quadratic function into two congruent halves. If we see that quadratic function, this is a quadratic function, and we see that the parabola, which is the name of that graph, parabola, this has the curve over there, like this is the curve. This curve is called the vertex, where that point on the graph where the curves make the parabola perfectly, so that point is called the vertex. And that point cuts the graph into two equal parts, like the quadrant halves. It cuts the graph, and that point which cuts the graph and the coordinates of that point, like in that case we have a coordinates over there. This is the coordinates 0 comma minus 6. This is the coordinates for this, but we have to, when we tell about the equation for S of symmetry, we only deal with the x coordinate. This is the x coordinate and this is y coordinate. Telling you about the equation for S of symmetry, so you tell that the x is equal to 0. So this is the equation for S of symmetry, not the y is equal to minus 6. This is wrong. So here right over there, the x coordinate only, maintain the x coordinate of the vertex. That vertex x coordinate defines the equation for the axis of symmetry, not the y axis, y coordinate. So we talk about the vertex. So what is vertex? So vertex form. So there is a vertex form where we can make the vertex. So this is the form for quadratic function to calculate the vertex and the more things which we discussed. And this also is equal to y or the fs, both are right, where a, p and q are the constants and the a is not equal to 0. The vertex from here we have p comma q. So here we have some two types of parabola we have, like we take that we like this graph is upwards open, it opens upwards. So when the graphs they like looks like that, it opens upwards. So this means that a is greater than 0. When parabola opens upwards, so we have a is greater than 0, and when it opens downwards, so this means we have a is less than 0. We have a question for this. Like I said, that we have some parts in, so we have some characteristics of the graph. Like we discussed the vertex, we discussed the axisymmetry. So we know that 2 point. We also discussed the direction of opening. Direction of opening depends on the a value, that how the a value look like. A is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. Here we have a is equal to 2. So a is equal to 2, a is greater than 0. So when a is greater than 0, so graph opens upwards. So for direction of opening is that graph opens upwards. So what is the vertex? We also know the vertex of this. So what is the vertex? So it's P comma Q. We have P is this and Q is this. Always remembering that when we made the P comma Q, or the when we made the vertex which is P comma Q, we always take P. If P is +1, so we take the opposite sign of 1, like -1. And the Q sign remains the same, which is -3. Always when we make the vertex, when we. So what about the domain? Domain range we discuss later on. Let's make the graph first. So how can we make the graphs? So for this, we have to make the table of values. So for the graph making, we only want 2 to 3 coordinates to make the parabola graph, and then we make the graph and we get estimate that what is the axis of symmetry and what is that other things. So we know that from there we know that a vertex is -1 comma -3. So we firstly made that point on graph, because this is a vertex and where the graph curves out. So that we have -1 over there, over that point by -1, and -3 is over there. So it looks like over there. So this is our -1 comma -3. So let's measure another points to make the another coordinates. You know how to take the table of values. The coordinates, let the values of x from like -1, 0, and f, and that the y values. So how can we take the y is equal to let's take x 1. When we take x 1, 1 plus 1 square -3, we have 5. So let's take another value. Now take 0. We get -1 for y if we take x is 0. Let's make the one more point. Let's take -1. So we take some coordinates, the 3 coordinates from letting the x values and get the y values. So first point is 1 comma 5. So let's plot 1 comma 5. Another point we have 0 comma -1. So 0 comma -1 is over there. And we have -1 comma -3, which we already made. So this is graph, and the identical points like look like very common to each other. Like if there's a point over there, so it's probably over there. It's like the estimating point. We get some points and we can estimate some other points, and we made the graph. So we connected those points and we made the graph for this. Okay. But that's what symmetry we get from the vertex. And what is the vertex? -1 comma -3. And we want the x coordinate. So x of symmetry is x is equal to -1. We need this graph for the domain and the range. You probably know about the domain and range from the grade 10th, that domain are the x values, what is the minimum of the max x value for domain, and for the range you want the min or max value for y. So we're talking about the domain, so we have a x values, like it goes like further apart, is never stop with the infinity. So we have domain of minus infinity comma infinity, or you can write in the interval notation which is x such that x belongs to all the real numbers. For range we want the max value of y, so we have max value of y over there, which is, we told you, which is minus 1 comma minus 3, that is the vertex, and the max values goes till minus 3 only. So the minus 3 is included, so we can make the square bracket over there because minus 3 is included, and it goes infinity in from the positive point of view. So if we made the interval notation for this, y such that y is greater than equal to minus 3 and y belongs to all the real numbers. And for this, that the vertex 0 comma 3, I'm going through points minus 1 comma 1 and 1 comma 1. So we have the vertex, so it's a 0 comma 3 over there, 0 comma 3, and we made the graph for this. So the random graph we have to make, like, but we have to know what is the a value for this. So we know that if the a value is greater than 0, so it goes upwards, and if it's less than 0, it goes downwards. So we have to find the a value first. So how can we find? We know that our standard equation for the quadratic function is y is equal to a x minus p square plus q. So we know p and q, we know the x and y too. From here we know that the 2 points where the graph goes through is minus 1 comma 1 and 1 comma 1. So it had either the minus 1 comma 1 or the 1 comma 1 to put on x or y in on the put place of the x and y and get the a value. So I take 1 comma 1, so it's easy to calculate, and like y is 1, a we have to find, x is 1 minus. So you know that is 0, so it keeps 0 square plus what is q is 3. So we have to find the a, so isolate the a value. So it's 1, so a into 1 plus 3 this, so 1 is a plus 3, and we get a value of minus 2. So what is the equation for this now? Minus 2 x minus 0 square plus 3. We know that x minus 0, it's x, and x square of this plus 3. So we get the equation, but how does the graph look like? Because a is negative, a is less than 0, so graph open downwards. So let's make the graph for this. In the graph. So the graph looks like that, and put the arrows over there. Like the graph goes down on the infinity. All for this video. So if you have any questions about this, let me in comment section. We have covered all the aspects from the quadratic equations or the function chapter. So if you have any questions, or if you need more questions in this from this chapter, let me in the comment section. I will make another video for this. See you in the next video. Till then, stay tuned with EduVibe.